The duel and the sword Jack stood at the edge of the arena, confused and sweating under his formal space diplomat suit. Red sand crunched under his boots. Tall alien towers glowed in the background as the twin suns of Zarex Prime shone down hard. He had only come here to represent Earth in a peace meeting. Instead, he found himself surrounded by a roaring alien crowd, watching two tall, silver-armored women with glowing swords preparing to fight. Just a small ceremony, his guide had said. A traditional welcome duel. But this was not small. This was deadly. The crowd cheered as the two women stepped forward. One was older, with a cruel smile and eyes like ice. The other looked younger but strong. Her name was Princess Rayla, warrior of the royal house of Zalari. The older woman raised her sword. "Ready to lose your honor, child?" she shouted. "I fight for truth, not pride," Rayla replied calmly. Jack leaned over to his alien translator. "They're not really going to kill each other, right?" The translator didn't answer. Instead, he slowly backed away from Jack. The duel began. Swords clashed, sending sparks through the air. The movements were fast, almost too fast for Jack's eyes. Rayla moved with grace and skill, blocking every blow. But the older warrior was clever. She used dirty tricks, sand in the eyes, sudden kicks, fake moves. Jack frowned. He had seen enough fights during Earth's long wars, and this didn't look fair. Suddenly, the older warrior pulled a hidden knife from her boot and threw it straight at Rayla's chest. "No!" Jack shouted, without thinking. He jumped forward. His shoulder slammed into Rayla, pushing her to the ground. The knife missed her by inches. The crowd went silent. Jack groaned, lying in the sand. Rayla sat up beside him, her silver hair falling across her face. She looked shocked. Then, a loud voice echoed across the arena. "Human interference," shouted. "The judge, he saved my life," Rayla said quietly, standing up. "He acted with honor." The judge frowned. "That does not change—" "No," Rayla interrupted. She picked up her sword, turned, and walked toward Jack. He blinked. Are you going to kill me?" Rayla smiled. "No. I am going to honor you." Then, in front of the entire arena, she knelt and placed her sword in Jack's hands. "By the laws of Zarex Prime," she said loudly, "I offer my sword of honor to this human. His courage is greater than many warriors of my kind." The crowd gasped. Even the judge looked surprised. Jack stared at the sword. It was glowing blue now, warm in his hands. "Okay," he said slowly. "Cool sword. But what does this mean exactly?" The judge stepped forward, looking serious. "By our oldest galactic law, if a warrior gives their sword of honor to another, they must marry that person. The bond is sacred and unbreakable." Jack's face froze. "Marry? Wait, what?" The crowd began to cheer. "It's law," someone shouted. Jack stood up, holding the sword like it might bite him. "I didn't ask for this." Rayla looked equally confused. "I didn't mean marriage. I meant thanks." The judge raised his hand. "The sword has been given. The law is sealed. The engagement is official." Jack looked around at the alien crowd. They were already throwing petals into the air, dancing, singing. He turned to Rayla. "So, what now?" She sighed. "Now, we prepare for a wedding." "I was only supposed to be here for 2 days," Jack muttered. Rayla gave him a small smile. "Welcome to Zarex Prime, husband-to-be." Jack groaned. "Earth Command is going to kill me." Above them, fireworks exploded in the alien sky, while the sword in his hand glowed brighter. But deep in the shadows of the arena, someone watched them silently, and did not look happy. Galactic law and forced engagement Jack sat in a golden chamber, still holding the glowing sword. His hands were shaking. Around him, alien guards in silver armor stood like statues. They didn't blink. They didn't speak. The doors were tall and sharp like fangs, and the air inside the room was too clean, like it didn't belong to any world he knew. "This is a nightmare," Jack whispered to himself. "I was supposed to be here for a handshake, not an intergalactic marriage." The doors creaked open, Princess Rayla stepped in, dressed in dark royal robes. Her long silver hair was braided now and her face was unreadable. "We need to talk," she said firmly. Jack stood up. "Yeah, I think so too. Care to explain why everyone is acting like we're already married?" Rayla walked to the window, looking out over the city of towers. "I didn't plan this. When I gave you the sword, I only meant to thank you, but the sword of honor, it follows ancient law, old, unchangeable, and binding." Jack ran a hand through his hair. "Yeah, about that. Your laws are insane. To you," Rayla said calmly. "But to my people, the sword is sacred. Once given, it forms a legal and spiritual bond. There's no way out. At least not easily." Jack sat back down. "There has to be a way out. I didn't agree to this." Before Rayla could answer, another figure entered the chamber, an elder alien in gold robes, tall, thin, with glowing eyes. He looked like a walking skeleton with wisdom in his bones. "I am Lord Thalrin," he said, "keeper of galactic laws and ancient customs." Jack stood. "Okay, good. Maybe you can help." "By receiving the Sword of Honor in front of witnesses," Thalrin said, "you are now the life-bonded partner of Princess Rayla of House Xilari. Congratulations." Jack's mouth dropped open. "That's not help." "You may speak only after I finish," Thalrin added coldly. Jack crossed his arms and sat down again. "You have two choices," Thalrin continued. "Accept the bond, complete the union, gain protection under royal law, or reject the bond and face punishment for dishonoring a sacred tradition." Jack raised an eyebrow. "What kind of punishment?" "Execution." Silence. Jack blinked. "Seriously?" "Very seriously," Thalrin said. Rayla turned to him. "They won't kill you quickly either. Our dishonor punishments are creative. Awesome," Jack muttered. "So just to be clear, I either marry a woman I just met, or I die painfully." "Those are your options," Thalrin said. "You have until sunset to decide." The elder turned and left the chamber. Jack rubbed his forehead. "This planet is crazy." Rayla looked at him. "I didn't ask for this either. If I take the sword back, I'll be executed for shaming the law. It's a lose-lose." Jack sighed. "Then maybe we fake it." "Fake it?" Rayla asked. "Yeah," Jack said. "We pretend we're going along with it. Buy time. Find a way out without anyone dying." Rayla hesitated, then nodded. "It's dangerous, but smarter than the other options." Suddenly a loud alarm echoed. Through the palace, a guard rushed in. "Your Highness, there's been a breach. Rebels attacked the North Wing. They're looking for the human." Jack stood up. "Oh, great. First marriage, now assassination." Rayla grabbed her sword. "Stay. Behind me." They moved through the palace halls. Blue flames lit the walls. Shadows danced everywhere. Screams echoed from distant rooms. Jack spotted a group of tall figures in black armor. Their helmets looked like skulls and their weapons buzzed with red energy. One of them pointed at Jack. "That's him. The outsider." They opened fire. Rayla blocked 2 shots with her sword, then spun forward and slashed through the first rebel. Jack ducked behind a pillar. "I am not trained for this." "Then learn fast," Rayla shouted, tossing him a small plasma knife. Jack caught it awkwardly. "This is barely bigger than a toothbrush." More rebels appeared. Rayla fought like fire, fast, brutal, fearless. Jack tried to stab a rebel sneaking behind her but tripped and fell on top of him by accident. "Somehow he knocked the enemy out, see?" Jack said, panting. "Tactical clumsiness." Rayla gave a small, surprised laugh. They finally reached the hidden chamber behind the throne room. It was quiet. For now. Rayla locked the door and leaned against the wall. "The rebels hate outsiders. They believe humans will ruin our bloodlines. And now you're bonded to me. They see that as a threat." Jack sat on the floor. "So I'm engaged, hunted, and might get executed all in one day. Did not see that coming." "We need a plan," Rayla said. "There might be a loophole in the law. A legend speaks of a true choice. A way to end the bond if both agree under special rules." but it's hidden in the old language. Jack looked at her. Then let's find it. Together. Rayla stared at him for a moment. You're different, Jack. Most humans would have run by now. I still might, Jack joked. But not without you. They both smiled, just for a second. But outside the door, rebel footsteps echoed again, and far away, in a dark chamber, a cloaked figure watched, their every move through a glowing screen. Let them play their little game, the figure whispered. Soon the bond will destroy them both. Fake fiancé. Real danger. Jack had never worn royal clothes before. The golden collar itched. The robe was too long. The boots squeaked every time he took a step. He felt like a space clown trying to look important. But outside, thousands of alien eyes were watching. The entire plaza of Zarex Prime was filled with cheering citizens. Banners flew from every tower. Drums echoed across the floating platforms. The people were celebrating the new royal bond between Princess Rayla and the strange human who saved her life. And Jack? Jack was trying not to throw up. Just smile and wave. Rayla whispered beside him. You look like you're going to faint. That's because I might, Jack muttered. They stood together on a glowing balcony. Alien birds flew overhead. Down below, the crowd chanted their names. Rayla, Jackson, Rayla, Jackson. It sounded like a war song. Jack forced a smile and waved like a nervous politician. Rayla leaned closer. Remember the plan? We pretend to be a happy couple until we find the law's loophole. No mistakes, no second chances. Jack nodded. Got it. Fake love, real death. They turned and walked back inside the palace where danger waited like a shadow hiding in sunlight. The grand halls were full of spies. Every servant, every guard, every guest. Someone was always watching. Jack couldn't relax, not even for a second. He knew if the rebels didn't kill him, the royal council might. Many nobles were already whispering that a human ruined their traditions. Rayla tried to keep him safe. She taught him alien customs, how to eat the right food, speak the right phrases, bow at the correct angles. She was strict but never unkind. And slowly, Jack noticed something strange. Rayla wasn't just a warrior. She was a prisoner too, trapped by duty, by honor, by a family name heavier than any sword. One evening, during another endless royal dinner, a messenger rushed in. A gift has arrived from Earth, he said. Jack's eyes lit up. Finally, something normal. The gift was a small black box sealed with a symbol from Earth's Space Command. Jack opened it carefully. Inside was a communicator chip and a letter, classified orders. Use the bond, gain access to alien defense systems, retrieve data, return to Earth. Trust no one. Jack's smile faded. So that was the real reason they sent him here. Not peace, not friendship, but information. Earth didn't care about Rayla. They wanted her people's secrets. He glanced at her from across the room. She was laughing with a young council member, but her eyes kept flicking back to Jack, watching, reading him like a soldier reading a battlefield. Jack closed the box. He felt sick. That night, Jack stood alone on a balcony, staring up at the twin moons. You're thinking too loudly, Rayla said, stepping beside him. Sorry, Jack said. Just homesick, I guess. She didn't answer right away. Sometimes, she said softly, I wonder what life would be like if I wasn't born into all this. Jack looked at her. What would you be? A pilot, maybe. A trader. Something free. She paused. What about you? Jack laughed bitterly. Definitely not a space husband. Rayla smiled. But her eyes were serious. If you wanted to leave, would you tell me? Jack hesitated. Yes. They stood in silence. Above them, the sky was beautiful. Below, something deadly moved, in the dark. Deep in the underbelly of the palace, masked rebels met in secret. A tall figure in black armor stood at the center. His voice was cold and sharp. The human is the key. If we kill him, the bond breaks. The royal bloodline weakens. And we rise. Another voice hissed. What if the princess protects him again? The leader smiled behind his mask. Then we kill them both. The next morning, Jack and Rayla were invited to a royal feast. A big one, hundreds of nobles, thousands of eyes. Jack sat stiffly at the long table beside Rayla. Servants brought strange dishes, glowing fruit, blue meat, fire-smoked drinks. He leaned close to Rayla. What happens if I eat something wrong? Nothing, she said. Unless you eat the black root, then you might explode. Jack wasn't sure if she was joking. Then suddenly, boom, a section of the wall exploded. Smoke poured in. Screams followed. Shadowy figures in black armor stormed the hall. Guards rushed to fight them, but one rebel broke through, running straight toward Jack with a spear glowing red. Jack's instincts kicked in. He flipped the table, grabbed a wine knife, and ducked low. Rayla was already moving, fast as lightning. She spun and struck the rebel's weapon, knocking it away. You okay? She shouted. Define okay? Jack shouted back, kicking another attacker in the leg. Rayla took two down with clean, brutal strikes. Jack clumsily tackled one into a bowl of soup. Finally, the guards overpowered the last of them. The feast was ruined. Blood and food were everywhere. Jack was shaking. That was not in the dinner invitation. Rayla looked around, her face pale. They weren't here to kill you, she said quietly. Jack frowned. What do you mean? She picked up a small device from one of the rebels' belts. A tracker. Her voice dropped. They weren't trying to kill you. They were tagging you. Tracking you. But why? Because next time, she said, eyes hardening. They don't plan to miss. Far away, the rebel leader watched the tracking signal blink. Let them believe they won, he whispered. Let the bond grow stronger. The deeper it gets, the harder it will hurt when we break it. The sword's secret, the sword hummed. Jack could feel it even when it wasn't near him. It was like the weapon had its own heart, and it beat in rhythm with the chaos around him. He stared at it now, resting in its royal case, glowing softly in the dim light of Rayla's war chamber. Do you ever wonder, he asked quietly, if this thing chose me? Not you. Rayla didn't answer at first. She was sharpening her own blade, seated across from him at the stone table. The sword doesn't choose, she said. It reflects. Jack frowned. Reflects what? Intention, loyalty, fear, love, betrayal. It shows what we carry inside. She looked up. When I gave it to you, I didn't know what would happen, but the sword did. Jack leaned forward. Then maybe it knows how to break the bond. Rayla stood and walked to the old bookshelf behind her. She ran her fingers along the dusty spines of ancient scrolls, pulling out one wrapped in golden thread. I've been looking into the first bonds, she said. Thousands of years ago, when the law was written, the sword wasn't just a symbol. It was a seal. It carried a code, a hidden command. A command to break it? Jack asked. No, something deeper, she whispered. A command that only activates when both hearts speak the same truth. Jack raised an eyebrow. Sounds romantic. Rayla gave a small smile. Or deadly. If both bonded souls say the same thing at the same moment, the sword will act. It's called the true choice. But if they lie, the sword burns them from inside. Jack leaned back. Great. So if we fake it, we die. If we fail, we die. If we say the wrong thing, we burn. Welcome to Zarex Prime, she said. They went to the archives that night, hidden beneath the palace, guarded by statues that whispered when no one was near. Rayla wore her hood low. Jack followed close behind, holding a torch that lit the ancient walls. These symbols, he said, pointing at the carvings, they look like DNA strands. They are, Rayla said. Our ancestors coded their laws into living stone. Even back then, they feared manipulation. They entered a chamber where light bent around the walls. Glowing text danced through the air like floating ghosts. Rayla, pulled out the scroll and held it in the light. Slowly, the sword on Jack's back began to glow too, brighter, hotter, almost alive. Jack flinched. Why is it doing that? Rayla's eyes widened. It recognizes the scroll. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber, deep, ancient, emotionless. One sword, one bond, one truth. Speak and be tested. Don't speak, Rayla whispered. Not yet, but Jack had already taken a step forward. He could feel the sword, pulling him closer like a magnet dragging iron. He heard a different voice now inside his mind. What is your heart's command? Jack, Rayla shouted, but it was too late. Jack's mouth opened and he whispered, Freedom. The sword flashed bright white. Then everything went dark. Jack woke up hours later in the medical chamber, covered in sweat, breathing hard. Rayla stood beside him. Her face was pale with fear but also anger. What were you thinking? She snapped. I heard a voice, Jack said, in my head. It asked me what I wanted, and you answered alone. She crossed her arms. The test doesn't allow solo truth. Both bonded souls must answer together or the sword rejects you. You're lucky it didn't kill you. I said freedom, Jack muttered. And I would have said survival, Rayla whispered. That's not the same. They were quiet for a long time. Jack finally asked, Why do you even care if we break this bond? Rayla didn't answer at first. Then she said, Because if we don't, I have to live a lie. And if we do, I might lose the only person who's seen me as more than a warrior. Jack looked at her. He wanted to say something real. But just then, the door slammed open. A guard rushed in, covered in burns. Your Highness, the Council, they've issued a demand. What kind of demand? Rayla asked. They want the union completed in 2 days. Or they'll strip your title and hand the bond over to General Vorn. Rayla's face went cold. Vorn is the one who sent those rebels, she said. If he gets the bond, he'll claim Jack as a hostage, then use the sword's power to start a war with Earth. Jack stood up. Wait, the sword has power? Rayla nodded slowly. The bond doesn't just unite hearts. It gives access to the ancestral vaults, military knowledge, weapons, technology older than any planet. Jack's mouth went dry. So if Vorn gets it, he becomes unstoppable, Rayla finished. They both looked at the sword now. It no longer glowed. It waited, silent, watching. We need to finish the true choice, Jack said. Together. And this time, Rayla said, we speak with one voice. Far above them in the black sky, a stealth ship hovered near the edge of orbit. Inside, General Vorn watched the palace through red lenses. The sword responded, he said. It's beginning to wake. His second-in-command nodded. Shall we prepare the strike? Vorn smiled. Yes. If they complete the bond, we kill them. If they break it, we claim it. Either way, the sword will be mine. Betrayal in the arena. The sky over Zarek's prime turned blood red at dawn. For most, it meant the rising of the twin suns after a storm. But for Jack, it looked like a warning. He stood in the middle of the royal arena, dressed not in royal robes, but in simple leather armor. No cape. No symbol of honor. No sword. Just a dull metal staff in his hand and fear in his chest. Above him, thousands filled the seats, cheering, mocking, whispering. At the highest platform sat Rayla, her face like stone. This was no celebration. This was punishment. Hours earlier, Jack had been summoned to a secret meeting, one sent directly from Earth Command. He was led through underground tunnels beneath the palace into a chamber lit by soft blue fire. There, a hologram flickered to life. An officer appeared. Stern. Cold. Agent Jackson Gray, she said. Your window is closing. Jack stiffened. I'm not an agent. You are now. We sent you to observe Zarek's prime. Instead, you bonded with a princess and lost sight of your mission. Jack clenched his fists. I didn't ask for the bond. Irrelevant. We need access to the vault. The sword grants it. Extract what we need, then leave. That is your only priority. The hologram faded. Jack stood there numb. This wasn't diplomacy. It was manipulation. But if he said no, Earth would mark him as a traitor. That night, Jack sat with Rayla in the training hall. They had been practicing the bonding ritual again, preparing for the second attempt at the true choice. He watched her move, fast, focused, powerful. She looked like someone who never doubted anything, but he was drowning in doubts. She threw him a practice sword. "You're improving," she said. Jack caught it. Barely. "Thanks. Maybe I'll survive 5 seconds longer in our next rebel attack." Rayla smiled slightly. "Or maybe I'll save you again." They shared a quiet laugh. Something real passed between them, and then Jack said it. "What if I told you Earth doesn't want
peace?"
Rayla turned. "What do you mean? What if they're using me to get something? Something hidden in the sword?" Rayla stared at him. "You've known this?" "They just confirmed it," Jack said. "But I didn't agree. I wanted you to know." Her face went still. Her shoulders tightened. "So you're not just bonded to me," she said coldly. "You're spying on me." "No," Jack said quickly. "I told them no. I chose you, but not at first." She whispered. A long silence. Then she walked away. The next morning, Jack was arrested, charged with intention to breach sacred weaponry, a crime that didn't even exist until they invented it that day. The Royal Council was in chaos. Half believed him. Half wanted him gone. General Vorn, now rising in political power, demanded the ancient solution: trial by combat. If Jack won, he would be cleared. If he lost, the bond would be broken by blood. Now, Jack stood alone in the arena. His opponent stepped forward, a monster, 7 feet tall, cybernetically enhanced, a champion of the war domes, Karnak the Butcher, armed with twin plasma blades and a thirst for violence. Jack tightened his grip on his staff. The bell rang. Karnak charged. The first hit knocked Jack into the sand, blood in his mouth, stars in his eyes. He rolled just before the second blade came, down. The crowd roared. They wanted a death. Jack didn't care anymore. He wasn't fighting for honor now. He was fighting to live. He ducked a wild swing and jabbed Karnak in the leg. No damage. The monster didn't even flinch. Karnak grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off the ground. "Pathetic," the beast growled. Jack gasped, then spat blood into his enemy's eye. It worked. For a second, Karnak dropped him. Jack rolled, picked up a fallen shield and blocked the next attack barely. His arms felt broken. Lungs burned, vision blurred, and then he heard a voice. "You are not alone." The sword. It was still in the royal vault, but it was calling to him. His bond hadn't broken. Yet. Across the arena, Rayla stood, silent, unreadable. Jack met her eyes. "Help me," he whispered. She didn't move, and then she threw something, a flash of silver. The sword. It landed at Jack's feet, humming with blue fire. Karnak laughed. "You think a weapon will help a dying man?" Jack grabbed the sword. It sang in his hands, and he changed. Faster, stronger, clearer. Karnak rushed in again, but this time Jack moved like water. He dodged, spun, slashed. The sword moved on instinct. 3 strikes, 1 knee, 1 shoulder. Final blow. Center chest. Karnak fell like a collapsing tower. The arena was silent. Then cheers exploded. But Jack didn't hear them. He turned toward Rayla, blood on his face, sword in hand. And she was gone. Hours later, Jack searched for her in the palace. He found her on the edge of the tower gardens. She didn't turn around when he spoke. "I didn't betray you," he said. "You didn't trust." "Me," she replied. "I told you everything." "Too late," she said. Jack stepped closer. "Then tell me what to do." She turned. "There is no more pretending." If we want to stop Vorn, we finish the bond. For real. Jack swallowed. And after? After, she whispered. Then you'll have to choose. Between what? She looked up at the stars. Between saving my world or saving yours. Far away, General Vorn received the report. The human survived. He smiled. Good. Let him think he's strong. Let them fall deeper into the bond. He looked at a hidden weapon glowing in the shadows. Because next time, he won't be fighting in an arena. On the choice of honor, the sky was quiet, too quiet. Jack stood on the balcony of the high tower, staring down at the empty streets of Zarek's Prime. The city, once loud with songs, markets, and celebrations, now waited in silence, as if it knew something. Terrible was coming, and it was. Princess Rayla was gone. Taken. A few hours earlier, it happened during the midnight ritual. Rayla had agreed to meet Jack in the royal vault, one last time before completing the true choice. Their bond was growing, stronger, and so was the threat against it. Jack arrived early. He brought the scroll, the sword, and every ounce of trust he had left. But Rayla never came. Instead, he found her guard captain dying on the floor, whispering with his last breath. Rebels. They took her. Vorn betrayed the council. There's a mole in the palace. Jack felt the world spin, the walls closed in. Rayla was gone. The sword was gone. And no one in the palace trusted him enough to help. Jack had one ally left. Kelry, Rayla's cousin. A scholar, half warrior, half nerd, and totally unpredictable. Jack found her in the hidden archives beneath the temple, surrounded by floating holograms and ancient books. You said the sword chooses truth, Jack said. Kelry raised an eyebrow. And now it's been stolen. So, what truth do you need? How to break into a rebel stronghold, rescue a princess, and complete a cosmic bond all before war begins. Kelry grinned. Easy, just don't die. She handed him a small device, a map of an ancient tunnel network. These tunnels were used during the old civil wars. Most are collapsed, but one goes under the Black Citadel, where they're keeping her. Jack took the map. Then Kelry paused, eyes serious. Jack, if they force her to break the bond under pressure, the sword will obey. It won't care if she's under threat. If she says the words, the bond is over. Jack's blood ran cold. Then I'll get to her before she says anything. The Black Citadel, a massive fortress carved into a dead mountain, protected by energy shields, acid rivers, and an army of elite rebels loyal to General Vorn. Inside, Rayla sat in a stone chamber, her hands bound in glowing chains, the sword floating above her, watching her. Vorn entered. You're stronger than I thought, he said. But not strong enough. Rayla said nothing. Break the bond, he continued. End it with your words, and I'll let the human live. Refuse, and you'll watch him die. Rayla looked up, calm and cold. Then kill me first. Vorn smiled. We both know Jack will come for you, and when he does, he'll bring the sword. And when he dies holding it, the vault opens to me. He turned to leave. Let the games begin. Hours later, Jack crawled through the final section of the tunnel, bruised, bloody, breathing hard. He could see the citadel now, see its shadow rising against the dying sun. His ear comm buzzed. Kelry's voice came through. Jack, be careful. I just intercepted a transmission. Vorn doesn't want Rayla to break the bond anymore. He wants you to do it. He's planning something. Jack gritted his teeth. Then I'll make sure he doesn't get the chance. Inside the citadel, chaos exploded. Jack struck fast, using speed over strength. He had no army, but he had the sword. And it knew the halls. It guided him like memory. Every rebel who stood in his way fell. Jack moved like lightning. He reached the prison chamber, but he was too late. Rayla was already standing, facing Vorn. She held a blade in one hand, not the sword of honor. I've made my decision, she said. Jack froze in the doorway. Don't, he whispered. Rayla looked at him, eyes full of pain. He'll kill you, Jack, and my people will fall. I can't let that happen. Vorn stepped closer. Say the words and it ends. Jack stepped into the light. Then say them to me. Look at me. Say them. Rayla looked at Jack. Everything slowed. Memories passed between them. Training together, fighting side by side. That first moment she gave him the sword. The laughter, the arguments, the fear, the trust, and something else. The thing neither of them had admitted. Love. Jack took a step forward. If you say it now, I'll walk away if that's your truth. Rayla trembled, then she dropped the false blade. No, she said softly. My truth is you. The sword of honor glowed bright, so bright it blinded the chamber. Vorn screamed. Pulse of energy exploded outward, knocking everyone down. When the light faded, the sword was floating between Jack and Rayla. They reached for it, together. And then they spoke. I choose this bond. The sword shattered, but not into pieces, into light. The ancient seal broke. But the bond became something stronger. Not law, not duty, choice. Vorn roared with rage and charged. But the broken light of the sword reformed into armor, surrounding. Jack and Rayla, they fought together, 2 against an army, and they won. Later, in the royal court, the council declared the old laws reformed. No more forced bonds. The vault was sealed forever, its power locked unless opened by mutual trust. Rayla stood before the court and gave up her title, but not her honor. Jack declined Earth's call to return. He chose her, and together, they chose something new. Far away in a dark system, a forgotten enemy stirred. Someone else had seen the sword break. Someone else wanted that power, and soon, they would come for it. The fight for love and freedom. The sword was gone, shattered, into light, transformed into something no one could ever control again. And yet, Jack and Rayla had never felt stronger. But peace. It didn't last long. 10 days after the bond was sealed by choice, not law, a new shadow appeared in the sky. Silent, massive, unknown, an ancient ship. Not from Earth, not from Zarex Prime. Something older, something angry, and it wanted the light that had been released when the sword broke. They came from the void. The Kalzor, a forgotten empire. Extinct, or so the galaxy believed. They were the first makers of the swords of honor, and the only ones who could unlock their deepest power, reality shaping. They had been watching, waiting. And now that one bond had awakened the original sword's full light, they wanted it back. But not the sword. The bond, Jack and Rayla. We should have destroyed the energy when we had the chance, Kelry said, scanning the data stream. Jack paced the Royal Command Center. You can't destroy something that was created from truth. Rayla stood by the window, staring up at the warship orbiting above. They don't want the sword. They want us. Or what we carry now. Jack turned. Then we give it to them. Rayla frowned. What are you saying? We don't hide, Jack said. We fight. Not just for us. Not just for this world. For every world that's ever been chained by false laws. Kelry sighed. Then we better move fast. That ship's charging something big. The Kalzor didn't speak through diplomats. They spoke through silence. Their ships hovered like ghosts above the city, draining power, shutting down defenses, disabling every drone. Only Jack and Rayla remained untouched. Their bond energy was creating a shield, something the Kalzor couldn't penetrate. Yet, but soon, they would. Jack and Rayla took the fight to space. One ship, one mission. They flew, a stolen stealth fighter directly toward the enemy mothership. So, any plan once we get inside? Rayla asked as the stars blurred around them. Jack smirked. Nope, just improvise. It's what humans do best. Great, she said, strapping herself in. I hope your chaos is contagious. Inside the Kalzor ship, The walls pulsed like a living organism. Everything was dark metal, ancient runes and humming crystals. Jack felt the pressure in his head the moment they stepped off the ship. "They're trying to speak to us," he said. "Or control us," Rayla replied. The air shimmered. Then a voice echoed, not in sound but inside their thoughts. "You are not worthy of the power you carry." Jack stepped forward. "Maybe not. But we earned it. Give us the bond, or your minds will be torn apart." "You want it?" Rayla growled. "Then come take it." And they did. Reality twisted. Suddenly Jack and Rayla were separated, trapped in mental prisons made from their deepest fears. Jack stood in a simulation of Earth, bombed, broken, burning. A voice whispered, "This is what happens when you betray your world. You gave up your people for her." Rayla saw her people chained by flames, her royal line erased, children crying. "You chose a human over your legacy. This is your shame." Both heard the same final whisper. "Break the bond, and we will make it stop." Jack fell to his knees. It felt real. All of it. Then he remembered her eyes, her words. "My truth is you," he shouted. "You can't manipulate something that's already been chosen." The bond sparked again, not just light flame. Across the entire ship the walls cracked. Alarm screamed. The Calzor screamed back. Rayla broke her prison first. Her fist glowed with bond light as she shattered the illusion around her. Jack followed seconds later. They ran toward the core chamber. Behind them, the ship was imploding from the inside. They reached the main bridge. The leader of the Calzor emerged, a being of shadow and light wearing a crown of fire. "You are chaos," it said. "No," Jack replied. "We are freedom." They raised their hands, bond light connecting between them. The energy surged, pure, unstoppable. It struck the core, and the entire ship was engulfed in white. When they woke, they were drifting in the wreckage, holding hands, alive. Weeks later, Xerex, Prime rebuilt slowly. The Calzor ship's remains were turned into a museum, a warning and a reminder. The galaxy had changed. The laws had changed. Honor now meant choice, not force. The bond between species was now sacred, not controlled. Jack and Rayla stood before a new council, formed of humans and Xerexians. Jack gave his final speech. "We didn't fight because we were chosen. We fought because we chose each other. And that's stronger than any law, sword, or enemy." Epilogue. In a quiet garden far from the capital, Jack and Rayla sat beneath a glowing tree. No armor, no titles, just peace. "So," Jack said, "still glad you gave me the sword?" Rayla leaned her head on his shoulder. "You never returned," he smiled. "I never will." Above them, two stars crossed paths in the sky, and in the bond between them, light pulsed softly. Not power, not war, just love.